It's been reported to us that you stated that you were raped by inmate Jones. Can you tell me about this?
Well, Jones and I kind of had an agreement where if I do what he wanted me to do, then he'd look out for me, take care of me.
Okay. What does he want you to do?
Well, he says that as long as I'll put out for him, then he'll protect me.
Put out? What do you mean by put out?
I mean, sex. It's not something that I want to do. I just feel that I don't have any other choice. He says that if I don't, then I'll be beat up or shanked, be killed.
Any leader by now should know that the Prison Rape Elimination Act exists. What shouldn't be new is the fact that this is a part of our work, and we ought to be about the business of preventing sexual assault in prison despite the existence of the Prison Rape Elimination Act.
As corrections professionals, we know that any sexual activity compromises the safety and security of our facilities and erodes public trust. Remember, the law covers both staff sexual misconduct and inmate assault. The National Institute of Corrections will provide a variety of training materials focusing on the different correctional settings that fall within the scope of the law. Although this program focuses primarily on prison and jail settings, the material clearly addresses implications for community corrections and juvenile facilities. While the standards are being developed, the examples in the video are intended to assist all correctional agencies in addressing sexual assault.
We have a responsibility to operate safe, secure, and humane prisons and correctional environments, stopping sexual misconduct at all levels of corrections, juvenile, community corrections, parole, probation, prisons, is good corrections. It reduces the overall level of violence. It also ultimately can reduce cost of operation when you're not spending staff time doing all these investigations. And it also has public health implications as well. I think when an inmate comes to prison, particularly for the first time, it has to be an eye-opener. They have various concerns. They're checking out the environment. They're certainly wondering and concerned about their safety. So I think, again, as staff, we need to be sensitive to that. We need to recognize that. And we need to address issues of safety, including the issue of sexual misconduct, right on the front end.
Classification is really the linchpin to making the system work. Institutions need to have a good, sound, objective, performance-based evaluation systems. They need to be able to identify potential victims and people who have been victimized. And they also need to recognize and understand who are the people that may be predators. They need to recognize those individuals and be able to classify those to the proper environments within the correctional facility. No one deserves to be raped while in prison. The punishment is going to prison, and clearly that's what society wants. The punishment does not include being sexually violated or sexually assaulted.
The National Prison Rape Elimination Act is designed to address all aspects of unwanted sexual touching and sexual activity that takes place within the confines of a correctional facility. And that obviously means that other inmates cannot sexually abuse other inmates. And it also means that staff cannot abuse or have sexual relationships with inmates.
I don't believe the Prison Rape Elimination Act is a new concept. I think it is a new way of identifying the whole prison rape issue.
When we're dealing with staff, we're really talking about all the staff that are involved in corrections, whether it be adult or juvenile corrections. It's really the whole gamut of individuals who come in contact with prisoners and inmates in whatever setting they happen to be in. And it's really incumbent upon them to understand their roles, their responsibilities, and how to eliminate and alleviate this problem when they confront it.
Jails need to understand that sexual relationships don't take long to form within a detention facility. And it doesn't matter if a prisoner is in for a day or several years, the relationship could happen very quickly.
It's not isolated to one particular place. It's not isolated to one particular person or type of person. It can be a woman. It can be a man. Anyone can be a victim, and we all need to be able to address that.
Anytime that you talk about sex or sexual assault, people feel uncomfortable. When you're talking about these issues, there are going to be some emotions that people are going to deal with, and we really need to be aware of that, and really need to try to confront that in a responsible way.
I think one of the first things that administrators should do is actually look at your state law and your department policies. You want to make sure you have policies on staff inmate sexual misconduct, on inmate rape. Inmates trained and made aware of those policies. Are the policies enforced? And I think it's a real systemic approach that's needed for an administrator.
Consensual sex between staff and inmates is never okay. They are wards of the state, and we have that power over them. It's like, okay, I'm going to give you a direct order to come over here and you're going to be my boyfriend. No, you can go to jail. It's considered rape. Rape under the badge.
It's very clear that all correctional institutions are highly sexualized environments. Many of the inmates who come into our system have been victimized early in their histories and bring that history of victimization with them to our agency. Likewise, many of our staff have similar histories. These dynamics are what play out in terms of our ability to manage this issue, and they can't be denied.
All right.
Mr. Romeo, could you please step down on the floor for me?
How you doing? I wanted to ask you a question.
Great. Go ahead and step back. Take your arm down. Okay, how can I help you?
How was your weekend?
Okay, that's really not appropriate. Is there something else I can help you with?
I just wanted to know what you did this weekend.
Okay, well, if you have anything pertaining to the jail you'd like to ask me, I'd be more than happy to help you.
You got it.
Thank you.
When we're dealing with the relationship between staff and inmates, we're talking about the kind of boundaries, both physical boundaries and emotional boundaries that need to exist. Everyone needs to be clear about what those boundaries are. And they also need to understand that depending on the setting, those boundaries may be somewhat different.
We're talking about organizations as small as Andy and Barney in Mayberry, and as large as thousands of inmates at one facility. It means we must saturate the field with the information. We must tell people how they can approach this in an effective manner. And we must make it clear that we believe it is the right thing to do. It is the right time to do it because we have the resources and the interest in doing it.
How you doing today, Mr. Birch?
We need to make sure that staff are well trained, but we also need to make sure that prisoners are trained as to what their rights are, as to how to prevent a sexual assault, and how to report it.
If any of you at any time feel threatened by another staff person or by another inmate, you need to report that immediately.
And we need to make sure that they understand that if they report, that we're going to treat them with dignity and potentially as a victim.
However, inmates also need to be aware that if they raise false allegations of sexual misconduct, there will be consequences.
I've been here for over a year and a half, and just one day, Sia got me and just told me